And we're back. Hold on, let me adjust. Okay, now we're back. So basically, our colonel here, who did a big song and dance, had been a part of the Carney circuit. Very a la Ryan Murphy freak show. For some reason, that's kind of the aesthetic. I don't think they were going for it. It just goes according to that time period. And Ryan Murphy, which I love, and we'll get into that later. He has nothing to do with this film. It's just commentary. Is are very detail oriented when it comes to the content that they push. So, of course, it has to kind of go accordingly. And at the time, a side note, I just wanted to make mention, kind of like Elvis was the Bieber of his day, Colonel was the Lou Pearlman of his day. Now, if you remember the salacious and alleged, well, he was the manager for NSYNC and I believe Backstreet Boys, but allegedly he handled their businesses horribly and just was a very self-interested, self-motivated person that did get them to some form of stardom. No shade, but pocketed a good lump sum of the money, kind of very much like what this man did with Elvis. He banked that he didn't have a lot of education and that he came from a poor background. And that's the one thing that we see also, that the attachment that he had very much to his mother and not wanting to disappoint her, perhaps also because unfortunately in situations like that where it's a single parent home, he had his dad, but his father had fallen into I think he wrote a bad check and he was sent to prison for a number of years. So Elvis had to be the man of the house. And so circumstances like that, a lot of women put a lot of weight and pressure on the eldest. And him being the eldest, he made it a promise that he was going to give her the life that she always wanted and deserved. He was a big comic book fan, and that's what we see from this movie. We see these elements that we didn't necessarily know prior to. We knew the story of him being the successful Elvis and the Vegas Elvis, and his some semi upbringing, but it's cut so it just jump cuts to fast forwards to his early career that we don't know all that, and his influences and how his friends would often take him to Baptist churches, and that's where he got the spirits kind of like pushed onto him, or influenced or inspired by. There's definitely a scene where it's a young Elvis, a young boy Elvis, and he's just caught up by the spirit. And even though they're like, I think his little friend is like, oh, we should go. I think one of the churchgoers or parishioners was like, no, he's with the spirits or something like that. Almost like he was going through some kind of exorcism or something like that. But he was heavily influenced by that. So getting back to our colonel, he was a carny and he was managing already certain acts, but it was making money, but it wasn't making that money. And Elvis was smart to record a couple of his singles that were already getting airplay, and he catches wind of it, the colonel, but he's like, oh, but that's race music. And this is where we learn that what they meant was black music or ethnic music, and that's for a particular crowd, and he sounds ethnic. And they were like, no, he's white. And all he saw was dollar signs and was like, I need to do what I need to pursue that act, because I'm going to make money off that. It's almost like betting on a horse, and you knew that one was going to make you that money. So, and it's a cautionary tale is what you kind of end up seeing. Now, this is what I will say, and a lot of people I think are discovering this now, who aren't necessarily familiar with Baz's work, which is our writer and director here for Elvis, this 2022 version. And no shade, don't get me wrong, I've been a fan of Baz since he did Romeo and Juliet, and his instances of how he'll put pops of huge colors. He's very showy. He's a very showy director. So you'll get these big punches of color and exuberance. And so since his, Romeo and Juliet days, I've been a fan. And how he'll sometimes, yes, he'll interject current pop culture, current pop songs into the storytelling of the film. So yes and no with Romeo and Juliet, but that's a review for another day. But what I will say, I haven't been necessarily a big fan when it comes to his other work. Moulin Rouge, I know it was like a firestorm when it came, especially when they interjected our pop queens of our princesses of the time, Maya, Christina Aguilera, Little Kim, Missy Elliott, Pink, and they had the whole Moulin Rouge, the updated version, kind of like what we're seeing here with or hearing with Doja Cat, an updated contemporary version of the classic. And I guess I don't know if perhaps it's a way to save money, but this man is multi-status, so I don't think he needs to do this. I think he wants to make it current and fresh and a different perspective to kind of attract a new generation, or just to attract the younger crowd, and I get that. But in the same token, this is what I've always hated, and especially when it came to Moulin Rouge, it feels very much like an acid trip, and I don't like that. I think some of the timing and pacing of the film goes too quickly, and if again, I've never done drugs, and I've never done that particular drug like acid, but I'm under the assumption, and Moulin Rouge, there are instances, whether you realize it or not, they make references to, I forget what the liquor was, absinthe. One of the scenes with my Kylie Minogue, and she's like a fairy, and there's just like this trippy sequence that they use that, again, an absinthe that's been known to have that kind of like psychedelic feel to it if you don't dilute it. Again, I'm not giving recipes here, I'm just saying. So he directs in the same way, and that's like his signature. Like every director has its signature way of completing their work, or letting it be known this is a Baz production, this is a Scorsese production. So very much that. So I'm not a fan, and so a lot of people who are discovering maybe Baz, or maybe because also now that it's streaming on HBO Max, it opens it up to a lot more people to critique. And I'm seeing a lot of people who are in agreement with me that they don't particularly like that way of storytelling. No shade. I was interested, and not for nothing. I mean, I had been hearing so much in terms of the leading actor who plays Elvis, Austin Butler. And I didn't know, I will admit, I didn't know any of his previous work, but I will say he does an incredible job. Like, that's the saving grace here. I can stomach maybe, and it was hard. I'm sorry, the first hour, I get it, there's all that information that we're being introduced to, and then those punches of colors, and of course the contemporary music, which, side note, this is my biggest pet peeve, because if I'm watching a period piece, I'm sorry, maybe I'm a traditionalist, but I don't want to be yanked out because now I'm hearing a song that would be playing in the radio or Spotify right now I can catch on YouTube. I really want to immerse myself as if I'm in that. I want to be transported into the 50s and the 60s. I don't need to be hearing songs of trap artists and R&B artists that are playing now. Like, you can let that go. Like, as you can see, the way I'm dressed, I'm very kind of like, even like maybe Priscilla Presley, Bouffant, Barbarella, and I wanted to mimic the 1968 TV special that they had for Elvis, which he's all like decked out in leather and everything. Also, I want to make a note that that's I tip a nod, especially when it comes to like hair, makeup, and costume designers, because they really have to be intricate when it comes to pushing the story forward. And though it looks near identical, our actor of Austin Butler dressed as Elvis in that special, which then we later see like how special it really was. It was like revitalized